right, I will call the regular meeting of the Airport Authority to order. And I'll ask Dave Carmichael if he will give our invocation.
I'll be thankful together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your presence in our lives. We thank you for your interest in the county. Thank you that we can call upon your power, your strength, and your wisdom. Your ways are higher than our ways. Your thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And we need to tap into that. Thank you for all the people that serve the county and all the people in this room that are interested in their county. I just pray that you be with us during this meeting in Christ's name.
All right, next item of business is the approval of the minutes from the May 15th meeting. You received a copy of those. Did anybody note any errors or omissions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I will abstain since I was absent.
Me as well.
All right.
So we got 3 abstentions, you got that, Your Honor?
Yes.
Next item is the approval of financial statements. You received those. I'll entertain a motion on the adoption of the financial statement.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions, not to get down the weeds, but only take a minute. Maybe some other people around the table would be interested. I'd like to know who people are. So who is Julian Lang?
Brandy. Oh, well, it's Brandy's mother.
Okay.
Right? Jessica, okay. Well, who's Julia? That's your first name.
name.
Oh, okay. It's Brandy. She's sitting right here. Brandy is our student, work-based student that's been working with us from the Baldwin County school system. And I just now learned that her first name was Julia. To me, she's Brandy.
Thank you, Brandy. How about Ryan Chastain?
Ryan Chastain is our seasonal help that helps us with the mowing. He's been mowing the infield this summer between the taxiway and the runway primarily.
Okay, just a couple more. I know we've got Tyler Richardson Cable. Brinson, Askew, Berry.
That's wrong.
That's Lee Carter.
That's Lee?
Yeah.
I didn't make that connection. So, and lastly, Rose and Reed Design Associates, what are they designing?
Okay, that's the architect that we've employed to do both the hangar, the new hangar, and the wall in the current existing hangar. They were the original designer of the hangar one.
Okay.
So that's why we're going back to them.
John Deere Financial.
And that's John Deere. That's the,
I had the same question.
yeah, so in 2016, we bought a new zero, it was new at that time, it's 3 years old now, but it's our zero-turn John Deere that we use to mow the runway, around the runway lines.
Paying them off.
Yeah, yeah, that was a zero-interest loan. They ran a deal, I think the mower was like $9,990, something like that, just under $10,000. And they had a 5 or 6 year zero-interest loan, so we purchased it at that time and we're paying that back now.
The last one, Allen Enterprises, Inc.
So Allen Enterprises is the company that provides specialized airport lighting system. So when the rotating beacon goes out or the windsock bearings, the most recent thing we bought from them was the windsock bearings. Those kinds of things are very specialized items. You can't just go down to Home Depot and get them. Allen Enterprises is a supplier for airports around the nation. And so we buy a lot of supplies, windsocks, those kinds of things.
Thank you for the education.
Okay.
I'd just like to know.
Is, under legal fees on our P&L, is that all due to the lawsuits, or is there other things?
We pay a minor amount, like Tom is here today as our legal counsel, so he'll charge us an hour or so for today's meeting, but the vast majority of those legal fees are to cover the various lawsuits. We currently have 6 active lawsuits against the airport. The largest of those is the one that Lee Carter is doing a lot of the heavy lifting on because it's a federal case filed in Rome, and his law firm is based in Rome. And that is current as of the invoices that we had received at the time that was printed. Our legal fees for last month were $20,000 for that one lawsuit.
So can I ask, and I don't know if you guys have any issue with this, but I'd love to add a line item to this and do a sub-heading under legal fees for, and split this out so that it's transparent to the taxpayers what Tom's fees are as a rule to do the general business of this organization, and what we're spending on lawsuits, so that we see that as a line item on the P&L. May I need any disagreement with that? Can you make that happen?
Absolutely. We get invoiced by case from each of the law firms, so I think we can make that happen.
Okay.
Is it okay if we do that starting 1 July when we start the new FY?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So,
You got that?
Yes.
All right, is there a motion on the adoption of the financial statements?
Make that motion.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Airport Director's Report.
okay, I've got a lot to report on this month. It's been a very exciting month for us. First of all, I sent y'all a picture of the new sign, the monument sign out on Highway 278. If you hadn't had a chance to drive by and look at that, you need to. Looks really, really good. And we're going back to our original name and the name that the airport has always been known to the FAA as, which is the Paulden Northwest Atlanta Airport. So that effort is now complete. We have now moved into our new space. So Yolanda, Randy, I, and Julian Lane are now located over across the hall in the space that was vacated by Silver Comet. And we have renovated that to the extent that we've moved all of our security cameras over there. We've got the Unicom piped into each of the offices. I now have a commanding view of the airfield where I can monitor what's going on. And our situational awareness there is just light years ahead of what we had before. So that was a huge move up for us. Let's talk about the count. So last week we had 50 kids mostly from Paulding County. There were a few from outside of Paulding County, but the vast majority of them were Paulding County high school students. And these were kids who entered the FAA's ACE Academy, the Aerospace Education Camp or Career Academy, and it was just fabulous. Several of y'all had a chance to come by and to participate in that some. I'll mention that a little bit as I go forward, but the budget for that was just under $10,000, and that was paid for by local businesses and businesses in the area, and I just want to call them out right quick. Sam's Club literally donated a pickup truck full of food for these kids to eat every day. They had snacks and breakfast and bananas and just grapes, everything you can imagine.
They ate a truckload every day, you say?
Well, they ate a truckload during the week, which is almost as good. But can't thank Sam's enough for contributing to their local community and helping make this happen. Local businesses, Holt Engineering, BLD Runoff, Epps Aviation, GBAA, Duncan Aviation, Standard Aero, Aerospace Fabricators of Georgia, Prime Contractors, Rotor Resources, Carlton Rakestraw and Associates, Greystone Power, Faithful Guardian Aviation, Top Flight Aerostructures, I Love My Geek, KEG Plumbing, Army Aviation Heritage Foundation, Tiger Flight, and Quarry Engineering. These were all either financial contributions or contributions in kind that made this thing a success. What did those kids get to experience? This is the 2-day schedule. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to highlight a couple of things that were on it in no particular order. On Tuesday, we had a fly-in. Monday, the weather was kind of bad, but the rest of the week, the weather cooperated nicely. And on Tuesday, we had the Army Aviation Heritage Foundation flew in an L-19 Bird Dog, a Huey, and a Cobra. Rotorworks brought one of their Powerline survey helicopters. The Georgia State Patrol brought in one of their police surveillance helicopters, and we were able to roll out the G650. So these kids had a chance to see all of these flying aircraft, and in most cases, sit in them, touch them, feel them. breathe the jet fumes and just really get an up-close and personal introduction to that aspect of aviation. On Wednesday, this young guy named Kerry Tidmore, don't know who he is, but Kerry gave a short aerobatics demonstration to the students, and Calvin Thompson graciously donated the use of his Citabria. Jared Solomon, who is the president of our local EAA chapter, narrated, and Jared described the aerobatic procedures and what was happening in the air as Kerry demonstrated, really with military precision. It was excellently done. Kerry had about this much room between the cloud deck and being legal and doing the maneuvers that he had practiced. I think I did see the tail dip into a cloud once, but just an amazingly precise demonstration of all of these various maneuvers that these kids now know what they mean and what they look like when they see them demonstrated in the air. Middle Georgia State University came. This is the only Board of Regents flight training program in the state. And they came and they gave a talk, and they also gave a hands-on demonstration of safety wiring. That same day, Jared and I were able to split time with Middle Georgia State, and we gave an introduction to sheet metal to the students. So the students were able to drill and rivet and touch metal and get to see what that was all about. Pat Elps. Those of you who are involved in aviation will recognize that name. The Ben Elps Airport in Athens is named for his father. Pat Elps owns Elps Aviation at PDK. Even though he grew up in Athens, he saw the error of his ways, and he's a 1956 graduate of Georgia Tech, those of you who didn't know that. But he's just a legend in aviation in Georgia. He's actually a member of the Georgia Aviation. Yeah, we all reach in our pocket, turn our phones off. Just a very interesting individual and part of aviation history. And, I just got a note here that Tally Richardson and Cable made a donation and they weren't on the list, so apologize for that. And Yolanda gets straight once again. But the fact that they were able to have someone of the stature of Pat Elps come in and talk to them about the topic of aviation history. And one of my personal heroes, retired General George Harrison, not the one that played for the Beatles, but the other well-known George Harrison, flew in a T-34 with the commemorative Air Force down at Falcon Field. And then on Thursday, the Museum of Flight came in with 2 T-28s. Those are Vietnam-era aircraft. Really, they predated Vietnam a little bit, probably in the 50s, I think, were when those aircraft were in heavy use. And they flew in, did a low pass with a left brake and a landing. Kerry and Dave can explain what that means to you. And just a very impressive demonstration. But the good part was when they climbed out of the airplane, they allowed the kids to climb in and sit in the seat and get all over the airplanes. And, that's part of what they do. Stacy made her staff available all week. We had them there to help with registration, with just food service, whatever we needed. David Small was there representing GBAA. Let's see, Dave was there, Kerry was there, Stacy. Did I miss anybody? Dave, of course. But the most important person who was there was Yolanda. Yolanda made this event happen. Ricky Flores, who is the actual FAA employee who was putting the count on, will tell you in a heartbeat, he could not have done this without her. She was primarily responsible for getting the sponsorships, all the food lined up every day, making everything run smoothly and on time, and has been an ambassador going around the county to any networking event that she could get into, advertising this and signing up kids and helped fill the count up. So, Yolanda, very well done.
It doesn't hurt that no one likes to say no to her.
That's right. Yeah, so I can't wait till next year. This is going to be something that we hope will become an annual event. Again, it's an FAA event that we're providing the infrastructure and the location for, but this is an opportunity for our kids like none other. So, and just a real quick note on that, we don't start with high school kids. Yesterday, we had 25 or more daycare kids coming through for a tour of the airport, and I think Yolanda's got 6 or 7 more of those lined up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So during the summer here, it's a very popular stop for the daycare kids to come by. So I now have a major announcement to make. This is something that some of y'all have been involved with a little bit, and we have waited for this day to be able to make this announcement. But I mentioned the Museum of Flight. The Museum of Flight is currently located in Rome, Georgia. They have a lease on a hangar that has now come due, so their lease is up. General Steel has donated a new hangar building to be built on a site yet to be determined to the Museum of Flight. The Museum of Flight is interested in coming to Paulding County, and they expressed that interest at their Monday night meeting. They're like us. They're like us in some ways. They're a public not-for-profit, and so their meetings have to be advertised and publicly held just like ours do. And so at that meeting, they made the following announcement that I want to now read to you. The Museum of Flight is assessing the potential of relocating to KPUJ, that's us, Silver Comet Field in Paulding County. The possibility will be based on the availability of volunteers and the willingness of the local businesses and organizations to engage with the museum. So we are being looked at seriously as the new location for what I consider to be a world-class aviation museum. They have reciprocal agreements with people you've never heard of, like the Smithsonian Institute, where they can exchange displays. They have one of the few F-14 static displays in private hands, for example. So imagine being able, for the kids in the county, to be able to come to Paulding County and climb all over an F-14 and go buddin' and pretend to be Tom Cruise. These are things that are very exciting from an aviation perspective. That second sentence there is going to require us to get involved at the community level, and I would suggest that we appoint Stacy to head that up for our group to make that happen. I just read you the sponsor list. A lot of those companies are here in Paulding County, and they will be all over helping make this happen. But we need to engage with them. We need to do the legwork to make sure that this group, this organization, feels like they would be welcomed, supported, and appreciated here in Paulding County. And this will give us something in the tourism department that very, very few airports in America have. So I just can't stress how pleased I am that they've gotten to this point of being willing to publicly announce that they are actively looking at a relocation to our airport. Dave, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, about a month ago, they have a lot of social events to help in the fundraising, and Stacy and Commissioner Stover and I went up to their hangar there at Floyd County Airport, Rome Airport, and it's a historical opportunity for people. You know, a museum is about history, obviously, but for example, they had a trio of ladies that would sing the old World War II songs and harmonize, and I really enjoyed that. Music lover, but you want to add anything?
No, I mean, it's an amazing opportunity. We're very excited. Obviously, if you want anything done, I want a woman to do it, so I'm happy to. You'll all just proof of that with the camera.
That's right.
I'm happy to make that connection with our business community. I think it will be warmly received and a huge benefit to our community.
All right. Thank y'all. Carrie, you were involved in some of the early discussions. You want
I echo the sentiments of both Dave and Stacy. I think it's an incredible thing for the airport to have. It's a great opportunity. It's not just a static displays. They have several flying pieces as well. So there'll actually be some hardware that it's endless really, the opportunities for the airport, the historical piece of it. And like you said, it's something that very, very few airports in the country have. So the opportunity is really enormous, so I'm very, very excited about it.
And just to underscore that, as Warrant Officer Pete O'Hara spoke, a week or so ago, he's, I guess, the president of this museum at the current time. Just like some people are interested in the Civil War, and some people are interested in environmental things at Raccoon Creek. Some people just want to get on the trail. There are all kinds of tourism opportunities. There are people that come in internationally just to go to the museum in Rome. It may not be a large contingency of people, but it's people that go a long way just to see it.
I think you should probably address kind of how the airport would benefit from a financial standpoint having that here as well. I think it's important for taxpayers to realize that when you talk about bringing a museum, you're not talking about supporting the museum financially from the airport's perspective.
That's right. So we would benefit from the land lease aspect. So if they're going to come build a hangar, that hangar has to be built obviously on airport property, so they would have to lease an acre or so of property from us. They're also interested in the possibility of leasing the entire office building, the empty, unfinished office building that we have next to Hangar 1. They're eyeing that as the actual physical, static, the small piece of the museum. The big pieces go outside, but their small pieces are currently in about a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot space that they have adjacent to the hangar they have leased there in Rome. But this would give them an opportunity to expand. And so we would benefit by now finally having a tenant in that space. The big benefit to us is in PR marketing, visibility, just the aspect of aviation draws aviation. You have a group like this, now what happens is they told us, I think they've got 300 and something active members in the museum. I want to say it was 370. And most of those are flyers. Some of them are mechanics. Some of them are just people interested in aviation. But a lot of them are flyers. And so they will fly in. Some of them will relocate to our airport. One very nice thing from an airport director's perspective about these old World War II airplanes, they suck fuel like there is no tomorrow. And so we, of course, benefit from the fuel sales that happen. I think they told us that those T-28s, Dave, you may know this, I want to say 80 gallons an hour on takeoff. Does that sound about right? 60 gallons an hour, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. So, we love having these guys.
Stop forgetting how much oil they also.
Oh, they burn more oil. They drip more oil out than they burn gas. That's true.
Yes.
So just from an airport director's perspective, it's like having the aviation school there. We're going to get the Chattahoochee Tech Aviation Academy, and you can ask the same question. Well, what financial benefit is this to the airport?
Well,
it breeds
from an
success.
education standpoint and building the workforce out of Paulding County, I think the school supports itself. I think that people just want to know that we're not all getting on board to dump a bunch of money into a museum that's going to then suck resources away from the airport. And that's really my point, to make sure that we're on record in front of the public saying that is not the intent of.
That is not the intent.
Yes.
Yeah. There will be donations made to the museum from other entities, but we as an airport will not be in a position to subsidize the museum.
Bingo.
The FAA wouldn't allow that, for one thing. Now, we can certainly work with them and trade out in kind and those kind of things.
Well, that would dispel any rumors that could get started, and that's really what I'm.
Right. We, the airport authority, are not paying the museum to move here. That is correct.
Terry, you
Yes, sir.
mentioned the lease in Rome is expiring. What is the time frame, or what length of lease are we talking about if they should?
Well, they were leasing an existing building in Rome. So they had a 5-year lease on a building that they did not build. In the ensuing 5 years, as they have looked for a permanent location, General Steel has come to the table and said, we will donate to the Museum of Flight the steel structure, the steel infrastructure, basically, for a 12,000 square foot hangar You just need to find a place to put it on.
Paulding County is going to have to do a land lease for a long period of time, 20 to 30 years.
30 years. Yeah.
And at that point, they'll bring their hangar in and put it on there, and that's how it'll work. And basically, will be the permanent home of the
Right.
museum moving forward.
For our lifetime. Yeah. But that's the difference between leasing a building that's already built and leasing land to build your own hangar on. So they'll get a much longer term lease.
At a better rate.
At a better rate, no doubt, yeah. Any other questions on that? All right. That's all I have.
All right, we have an action item on a resolution 19-01, request release of 3.316 acres in land lot 325 from FAA federal obligations for the purpose of constructing a public road known as Airport Parkway Extension to the side of the new Chattahoochee Tech Aviation Academy.
Okay, let me bring you up to speed on what this is all about. By the way, I did send all of y'all an email, a copy of the actual resolution. I think it's attached in the package here. Rather lengthy, so I won't read it, but it exactly mimics the resolution that the Board of Commissioners also passed in their most recent meeting. And as co-sponsors, we both have to do this, to submit it to the FAA. So we have already submitted to Georgia DOT our preliminary package for the release of the 3.9 acres for the Chattahoochee Tech School. They have come back with a number of requests for additional information, for clarification, and so forth. And one of the showstoppers for them was you have no way to get to the school without going across Airport Parkway. And so the suggestion is we have planned Airport Parkway extension since the day the airport opened. It's on the airport layout plan. It's been part of the design of the airport from the inception of the design. But they have recommended that we fold this request in with the school request so that we do not have to deal with an easement to get to the school across Airport Parkway. As it stands right now, if we release the property to the school, they would have to have a financial arrangement with the airport and basically be reimbursing the FAA for the investment they've made in the property. Because you can't just allow non-airport users to be crossing the airport without some sort of financial transaction there. So this goes ahead and recognizes our position that the Airport Parkway needs to be built specifically now in order to support the school. This also ties in, just so everybody knows, to the terminal area expansion project, because we also have to build a ramp from the airfield side to get to the school. And that's going to cross on the east side of the terminal property in that area known as the terminal area expansion project. So the terminal area expansion project, the roadway, the school, they're all connected. They're all basically one big master plan. This is just the next step along the way. We have to have this resolution from our board so that I can put that into the next version of the package, which will now include the 3.9 acres for the school and the 3.3 acres for Airport Parkway extension. Any questions about that?
I think it'd be important to know the Georgia Department of Transportation's that Commissioner McMurray has come out to speak about the roadway. Former Chairman Jerry Sheeran, as the DOT representative, has gained support so that there'll be a lot of financial support from the state to help with this parkway. Scott's in the room here. He might want to add to that if anybody has other questions. We've got strong buy-in and had a couple of good meetings. Of course, Harold Lennon-Co. used to be the commissioner of DOT, and he's got good connections there, so he snapped his fingers.
Well, I'm familiar with when the road was built in the first place. How is this one? I mean, we got commitments from the DOT. Is this going to be a county DOT road to be built as the first one was?
Scott, you want to address that?
Exactly the same way. The original projects that you helped us with was an LMIG type project, PR road or whatever back in the day. the entrance and the parkway and the half mile we built before. This is the same type of project. We've got an LMIG, Local Maintenance Improvement Grant, commitment for 70% of the roadway to carry it to the school and to tie into the remainder property.
Any other questions?
I had one, Terry. Okay, we're taking this to the terminal area expansion in school. Now, I know that your goal is to take down that bank, pipe the stream and everything for the area expansion. Will any of this 35 million that has been given to us for the Aviation Academy or JHT, will that help with the cost of taking down that hill and piping the stream and everything to prep the land, get it ready?
Yes and no. So if you're familiar with where the 3.9 acres is that the school has selected, that land lies on average about 1,320 feet above sea level. The prevailing elevation at the airport is 1,290. That's the magic number for the runway, the roads, the taxiways, because airplanes don't like to go up and down hills. So their site is going to have to be brought down on average about 20 feet. And the excess dirt from that project goes in the same area where the terminal area expansion project, and that's basically going to level out their lot and the ramp that's coming to their lot. So
So you use the dirt from the hill to level the road to bring it in?
no. We use the dirt from the hill to level their lot, which includes part of the hole that
Got
we're
it.
trying to fill in.
Got it.
They will not pay for our construction,
Got it.
nor will we pay for their construction, but this all goes hand in
Hence
hand.
the yes and no.
Right. So this all goes hand in hand. We do our part, they do their part, and at the end of the day, it's all done. But they're paying, in their 35 million, they're paying for their construction activities. They're moving the utilities, inside their property line and those kind of things. So they're paying all of those costs, but us in the county are going to have to pay for the ramp, the road, the pipeline, and all of those parts of the project.
Thank you, Terry.
Okay. And this is very important for y'all to understand because these are all interrelated. And there's a lot of engineering intricacies here on these projects. So I would encourage you to ask questions, not necessarily now if you don't have them on the top of your head, but pay attention to the emails and the documents that I send you over the next 6 to 12 months as we move forward with making the school a reality.
All right, any further questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the adoption of the resolution.
Make a motion to adopt the resolution 1901.
Second.
Second, Harold, yes.
I just had one question as far as there's a typo in here that just needs to be addressed in the heading. Other than
Of the
that,
resolution?
yes. If this is the resolution, there's a typo.
It's the only
Very
one.
first word.
I put it in the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the only one.
Got it.
That was noted yesterday, I think.
I thought that was already changed. I figured that was just so they can spell check.
All right,
It didn't show up on spell check for some
Because
reason.
it's all caps.
Yeah, I guess. I do engineering, not spelling.
He does all kinds. That's a good engineer.
That's
I have a motion and a second to adopt as amended.
With the spelling check change.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We do have a need for closed session for both real estate and litigation purposes. Is there a motion to enter executive session? Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will return hopefully shortly. All right. I will note that executive session has been adjourned with a report of no action taken. Is there any other business to be brought before the airport authority?
I think the only other, Mr. Chairman, would be the table motion that we had last scheduled meeting. It was in the minutes, if you want to look back, it's item number 8, the hangar conversion. So I think Dave's not here, but I know Commissioner Stover was here earlier, but Terry, you may have some background information, but what I understand from the VOC members, and also I think Sandy is still here, is that they are still working towards more information. They may have some things to still work on, so, and I believe, Tom, we actually have to have some type of action, be another motion, but do you have anything to say on that one, Terry, as far as what you know?
Nothing has changed with the BOC, so
Okay.
what would be appropriate would be for us to table it to the next meeting.
Okay.
Or to table it indefinitely until it's removed. Either way.
Yeah.
So based on what
I'll
I'm
take a
hearing,
motion to table indefinitely. That way you don't have to do it every month.
okay, I'll make that motion. That's the one thing.
Have
I'll
a
second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And what that will require at some point is if somebody wants to take action, they'll have to bring a motion to remove from the table. That will have to pass, and then it'll have to be discussed to be voted on. All right. Any other business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, we are adjourned. Thank you.